Have you ever just wanted to pick up the guitar and play something cool and not necessarily play like a full-length song, but just play something short like you're testing out a guitar, like in a guitar store? Now, a really cool and easy way to do that is just by adding little riffs or tricks to chords that you already know. And so if you've learned to play a C chord, I'm gonna show you 5 tricks that you can add to this C chord that's gonna make you sound like a pro. Now, some of these are gonna be really easy for beginners and others are gonna be a little bit more advanced, but all of them are gonna be really fun to play. And eventually you should know all these tricks. So let's see how many of these you already know. And let's jump right in. All right, number 1 is great because it sounds really cool, but it's also a really good way for you to get this shape, what we call under your fingers. It'll help with that because this, you're sliding through different spots, playing different chords, but you still get to use the same shape. Here's a regular C, and if we just slide this shape up a whole step, meaning 2 frets, we have this chord. It's a type of D chord, and I would call it a D suspended chord. If you put your pinky down on the 1st string on the 3rd fret, this is also just called a C chord. The next slide up shape is if you slide that C chord shape up, this is a cool F chord called F add 9. It's very useful and it sounds great if you pair it again with a G, because this is the other place you can slide the C chord to. Now we're in the 8th position. 1st finger's on the 8th fret, 3rd finger's on the 10th fret, and pinky's on the 10th fret as well on the 1st string. Now we have 4 different places where you can play this C chord shape, and it gives you 4 different really cool chords. So we have C, we have this D sus chord, we have an F, add 9, and a G. Try those out. Number 2 is gonna be hammer-ons. There's a lot of really cool places you can hammer on, and they're pretty easy. Let's just go through all of them. So here's our C chord. The first place I want to show you to hammer on is just the index finger. You just take your index finger off, and then you slam it back down. It's a cool little ornament you can play. You can also try a trill, meaning a pull off and then a hammer on. Now the 2nd finger can hammer on the D string where it normally is. So you can form the C chord, lift your 2nd finger off, strum it, and then hammer on. You can also hammer on the G string on the 2nd fret. So see how I'm doing going. And it sounds great, especially when you pair it with the hammer on the D string. So that takes, if you take your pinky and hammer it down on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, then you can play all these cool ornaments like that. Remember, you can pair it with any of these other hammer-ons that we talked about too. You can hammer on the 1st string as well. And remember, you can also pull off. So try out those hammer-on spots to make your C chord sound a little bit cooler. Number 3 is going to be cool voicings or other forms of the chord. So we have C, C major 7, C add 9, this C we already talked about. Let's go through all these different forms slowly. So first, if we just remove our index finger all the way, this creates a chord called C major 7. It's a very pretty sounding chord. Second, we have C add 9, and this is a common chord. You might have seen it. And this is where you would put your pinky down on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Next, if you put the pinky on the 3rd fret, this time of the 4th string, the D string, it makes what's called C sus 4. And that sounds great going from C sus 4 to regular C. All you do is just lift the pinky or put it back down. C sus 4, lift it to C. Back to C sus 4. Back to C. Now with suspended chords, there's always 2 of them. There's C sus 4 and C sus 2. So to get a C sus 2, all we do is lift our 2nd finger off completely and include that open D string. And then go back to the regular C. C C sus2 to C. And then you can pair them both together like this. Another great one is something that I call the fat C, and that sounds like this. Take your third finger and move it over to the third fret of the lowest E string, and then put your pinky down where your third finger was on the third fret of the A string, and then strum all the strings. And it's a slash chord, C/G, and you read that C over G. And that's because it's a C chord, but the lowest note is the note G. So C over G. C chord over the note G. All right, number 4 is going to be alternating bass. Now this is going to sound great if you're trying to sing over a C chord and you want some extra movement again. So you'd hit this note by itself, strum the high part of the chord, and then move the third finger over to the third fret of the lowest string. Hit that and then strum the high part of the chord. A little faster sounds like this. This is kind of a hard movement, moving this third finger back and forth, so it'll take a little bit of practice. One thing that's going to help to get this sound better, again, is that thumb wrap. If you can wrap your thumb to where it mutes this low E string the whole time, then when you play C here, it's muted that way and you don't have to worry about the placement so much of the third finger. Then when you move the third finger to the low string, since it's above the mute of the thumb here, now the note will come in. So if it's lifted up, muted, down, note comes in. So that's just a little trick to help with your alternating bass to make sure that the low E string is always muted. All right, number 5 is going to be chord pairs. What chords commonly come paired with C? And to start, I want to show you these lesser known cowboy chords in C. Now, cowboy chords are just groups of chords that sound cool together, and they are easy to change between the chords. And they're easy because of the way that you grip the chords. Let me demonstrate. Now for this, we're going to use the C chord with the pinky down on the third fret. Now this chord is often paired with an F chord. And if you just take these two fingers as a pair and move them over a string, leaving everything else down, now we have that F add 9 chord. So it's an easy switch. C, F, add 9, C, F, add 9, C, F, add 9. Finally, the G chord comes up in that grouping as well. To get to that G chord, all you do is take, again, this pair of fingers down a string set, but up towards the sky. So now we're on the 6th and 5th string. And that gives you a G chord that looks like this. Remember to keep that pinky down. G, C. Now the second chord pair I want to show you is C going to A minor. Now A minor is called the relative minor of C. And that's because these two chords are related in a way so much that they can be considered almost like family relatives. C going to A minor. We share a lot of notes. Now the easiest way to get from C to A minor, look, it's just moving that one finger. 3rd fret of the A string to the 2nd fret of the G string. I also want to show you an interesting way to get from the C to the A minor using something called a walk down. And then a walk up. This is a common way that you're going to hear a C chord transition to an A minor chord. C chord. Use your 2nd finger to play the 2nd fret of the A string, and then go back to an A minor form. Again, 2nd finger to 2nd fret, C, 2nd finger, A minor, 2nd finger, 2nd fret to C. So that's the walk down spot. So bum, 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 bum. Now, as a bonus, I want to tell you this little story about the C chord. Now, the notes of the C chord are the notes C and E and G. But if you play those notes G, E, C like this, that might sound really familiar. Those are the notes of the theme of NBC, the television channel. And they picked those notes for a specific reason. G, E, C are the initials from NBC's original owner, parent company, the General Electric Company, GEC.